Hello guys, welcome back. Now in this session we are going to discuss about dynamic blocks. So let's look into the agenda. What are the topics we are going to cover in this session? So guys, in this session we will start our discussion with by understanding what actually the dynamic block is. Once we understand that, then we will do a demo to understand how to use dynamic block, and once we finish our demo, then we automatically come to know that why to use dynamic block. So guys, let's jump into a diagram to understand what is dynamic blocks. So guys, whenever we are working with any of the large infrastructure within any of the provider, sometime it is required to repeat the same set of code within the configuration file many times. So what I mean to say, let's understand with an example. Suppose if we want to set up this architecture or say this infrastructure of VPC within our AWS provider, and where our application is sitting in these instance, and to access this instance we have set up various type of security mechanism like security group, network ACL within VPC. So sometime it is requirement that we want to allow various ports for incoming request and many ports for outgoing request within the security group, inbound rule as well as outbound rule for many of the ports. And if we are performing these activity within the Terraform, and if we are going with a normal approach, that means we have to repeat our code many times for each of the ports. So let's do one thing. Let's design this part of the program to understand it better. So let's jump into the Visual Studio Code to perform the exercise for creating the inbound rule for various ports. So guys, we are into the Visual Studio Code, and now we will design or say write a configuration file to create the security group. So how we will do that? We need to come here, click on new file, and over here I will tell that SG security group demo multiport.tf, and within that I am going to create the resource block for security group. So how we will do that? As you know that to create any of the resource block we have to use resource keyword, and after that we need to specify which resource we want to create. So I'm going to tell that AWS security underscore group. So this is the naming convention that Terraform follows, which provider it is and which resource we want to create, and all is being separated through the underscore. So you have to remember that. Then we need to specify the name of the code block. So I can tell that SG multi-port. So over here this is the name of our security group, and then we need to specify the name of our security group which we want to create, and over here I will tell that without dynamic block SG. So now we need to create the inbound rule. So to create the inbound rule we need to create ingress within the code of Terraform. So let's write ingress, and over here we need to specify some of the argument. For example, there is an argument from underscore port, and within that I need to specify the port number, and then we need to specify to underscore port. It is going to be the same 7900, and then we need to specify the protocol. Here I will tell TCP, and then we need to specify the CIDR block. So this is the configuration of the ingress block. So I will tell CIDR blocks, and then I need to specify 10.0.0.024. So now we are done with one of the port where we are specifying these port is being allowed within this security group, and that is for inbound rule. So now let's repeat for different ports as well. So I'm going to repeat this code block many times. So let's do it 1 2 3 4. So that means total number of 5 ports we are having, where we want that these ports are being allowed within this security group. So let's specify a different port number over here, and if you have multiple requirement where you are allowing more than 20 port, 30 port, however, so you can specify like this. So that means over here you need to specify different port. For example 5234, then we have to, there is something, just take a 6300 again, and then here we need to specify 6006, 6006, 9009, 9009. So we are done with the creation of AWS security group. Now if you will run the Terraform plan as well as Terraform apply, then it will create a security group with the name without dynamic block SG, and within that security group it will allow this inbound rule, and wherever this security group is attached, these ports have access to that particular instance. So one thing you notice over here that we are repeating the code many times. If we are having less number of ports, then we don't have any issue with writing such way of creating the resource if we are doing for single time. But the problem is that enterprise application doesn't work in such manner. So what I mean to say that, suppose in case in future if any of the new port is going to be coming, for example 10 new port is coming, that means you need to repeat the same code for 10 times, and that would be really very challenging. And you must be notice over here that it is breaking the dry principle of coding, that is, don't repeat yourself. And with this way of writing the code, here we are breaking that principle. So now the question comes over here is, what is the solution then? So guys, the answer is dynamic block. So guys, dynamic block is one of the block within Terraform where we write the code without repeating ourselves. So what I mean, let's understand with an example. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to convert the same code with the help of dynamic block, and you will see that how easy to introduce a new port whenever any requirement changes happen within the security group for inbound rule. So what we need to do, we need to create a new file, and this time I am going to give it a name, sgdemo multiport dynamic block, or say blocks.tf. and over here I need to create a security group resource, and then we will introduce the dynamic block within it. So let's copy the code which we have written earlier, and over here I will come and I will take this part of the code and I will come here and paste it over here, and I will close it. Now next step, we need to change the name over here. We will tell with dynamic block, and then we will introduce a variable to pass the port numbers. So let's create a variable file, but prior to that, make sure that you are changing the name over here. I am going to tell dynamic security group multiport, and then I will create another file over here called variables.tf, and within that I am going to create variable that is of list type, and over here I will tell that all ports, and then I need to specify it is of type list, and that is accepting number. So I will tell that list number. So now let's proceed to the step 3. At the step 3 we need to use this variable. So over here within the dynamic resource file we need to introduce the dynamic block. So how we will introduce that, we need to specify over here a keyword dynamic, and then we need to specify for ingress, and over here the next step we need to tell for underscore each, and here we need to use the variable which we have created, that is all ports. Now the next step, we need to iterate all the ports which we are passing. So let's write, I will tell iterator equal to port. Now to apply those values which we are getting, so we need to tell that content, and there is a content block, and within that content block all these things will fall into. Now over here to make it dynamic, we need to specify, replace these value with something called port.value. Same is the case with this one, port.value. So now we are done with the dynamic block, and with the help of this code we are able to convert our earlier code that is without dynamic block. With the help of that we are creating the inbound rule. Now with the dynamic block we are creating the same thing, that is we are creating the inbound rule within the security group. So now you must be asking that where we are passing the value, so that we are going to do it now. So to pass the value, as you already know that we have to create something called terraform.tf vars file, and from here I will tell all ports. So whichever the port we are targeting, if you remember what are the port number we were having, so let's grab those port numbers. So we are having 7900 5234, so let's write it 7900 5234, then we are having 6300, then we are having 6006 9009. So these are the port numbers we have earlier targeted. So now let's save all the file and let's run it. But prior to doing that, let's do some variation. I want some of the port should go with this file, that is without dynamic block, and some of the port will go with the dynamic block. So over here I will do little variations. So I will change the port number so that we can see all of them. So let's change something, and over here I will mention 7. So these are the port numbers we are allowing within the security group with the help of dynamic block, and these are the port number we are allowing without dynamic block. So let's run it. First of all, save it. To run it, we need to go to view, terminal, and over here we need to specify first Terraform init, and we got an error, and that is because we have done a mistake. And what mistake we have done? So over here it should be in double quotes, so make sure that you are specifying within the double quotes. So let's do it quickly and then we will run it again. So I'm going to specify each of them with the double quotes. If you are following me, you should also do the same. Sorry for that. And then we should come over here and we will specify the same. Now same for the dynamic block, and over here we need to specify all this. Now let's save it and let's run it again. So we will tell that Terraform init enter. So now we have initialized the Terraform provider. Now the next step, we need to run Terraform plan enter. So guys, it is asking for a value for var.all ports. So that means we are doing some mistake over here within the variable name. If you will go into tf-vars file, then you will find that we have created a variable all ports, but we are specifying the value for all port. So that is a mistake. Make sure that you are specifying all ports over here. So that we did earlier and we have done some typo over here. So let's save it and let's press Ctrl C over here and then need to again specify Terraform plan enter. So guys, the execution has been completed for Terraform plan. So let's look into the plan and you will see that here we are creating two resources, one with the dynamic block and one without the dynamic block, and we are creating the security group, and this is what it is telling. So now let's create these two resources and we will verify within AWS. So to create it, we need to tell Terraform apply enter. So it is asking for the confirmation. Make sure that you are specifying yes over here. So it has started creating the resource, that is security group, one for without dynamic block, another for dynamic block. So now it has created the resources. Let's go to the AWS and verify it. So guys, we are into the AWS console. Let's go to the EC2 dashboard, and over here we will get the option of security groups. Within the security group, we will see that we are having with dynamic block SG and without dynamic block SG. So let's select without one first and let's look into the inbound rule, and over here you will see that whatever the inbound rule we have specified for our different port, it is coming over here. So now let's verify with dynamic block security group. So let's select it, and over here you will see that it has introduced all the ports which we have specified within our all ports variable, like 6301, 5235, 9008, 7901, 6007. So it is the same port which we have specified. So guys, this is what I wanted to demonstrate you in this session. So before concluding the session, make sure that you are going to destroy these resources. So let's do it. So let's come over here within the Visual Studio Code and specify Terraform destroy enter. So now it is asking for confirmation. Make sure that you are specifying yes over here. So now it has deleted or say destroyed these two resources. So now let's proceed further and conclude the session. So guys, in this session we have started our discussion with what actually the dynamic blocks is. So now you are having the understanding about what actually the dynamic block is. So dynamic block is one of the code block within Terraform, and with the help of that we can write non-repeatable code, and that will help us from violating the dry principle, and we have understand this with the help of this demo. And after performing the demo, now we are able to answer why to use dynamic block. We use dynamic block for many reasons. One of the reason which I have discussed, it helps us from violating the dry principle. With the help of dynamic block, the code is very easy to maintain. If any of the future changes is coming, that we can easily take care without changing the code. We just need to specify the values within the tf-vars file, and our program is efficient enough to accept those values whichever coming new. So on this note, I am stopping over here. See you in the next session. Till then, bye bye, take care.